It's been almost 2 decades since we started our journey to educate and help you take action so you may better manage your financial future. Our goal is to help you accomplish your life's purpose. This podcast reveals financial tips, strategies, and insights that will help you to set your financial goals and guide you along the way. This is Managing Your Financial Future, brought to you by the advisors at Lucia Capital Group. Managing Your Financial Future, back with more exciting stuff. Wow, this is good. This is really, really good. Professor Plum, well, I'm Johnny Dean. I'm your podcast host, your moderator, the non-advisor half of Dean and Plum. The advisor half is sitting here with me. Fortunately, it's nice to have you along. We have had other advisors talk on this show, and I should probably invite some other folks too to come on, maybe with you.
Well, either way,
we could have an advisor type discussion.
You can give me a day off.
Nah, I'm not thinking about that. If I don't get a day off, you don't get a day off. But heck, this is once a week. I mean, this is easy to do, right? It's just a podcast. We're not out doing any heavy lifting. But one of my favorite topics has to do with Social Security, and I ran across a statistic that somebody sent me that said that people way more often than not, turn to an advisor to help them with their Social Security withdrawal strategies. And this comes up generally with a question that is, when do I take my Social Security? I mean, when can I start taking it? Should I take it early? I've heard I should take it late. I heard I should never take it late. I've heard I should take it early. I shouldn't. I mean, all this stuff. And we're going to cover that in this. But let me just run by with you, Professor Plum, who knows a thing or two about Social Security. Not just the rules, but this is the important part, strategy.
The planning process.
If you do this, then this is what happens. Scenarios. Somebody sent, this may have been from Nationwide, sent me this 3 common Social Security misconceptions. And there are more than 3, but these are 3 that stuck out to me. This includes the incorrect belief that if adults claim benefits early, their benefits will go up automatically when they reach full retirement age.
Wouldn't that be nice?
70% of boomers in this survey believe that, and about half of millennials and Gen Xers. Professor Plum.
So the millennials and Gen Xers are smarter than the boomers, who are close, and the boomers are closer to actually getting their benefit.
Well, it makes me wonder. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but this is not correct. When we say take it early, what do we mean?
Well, taking it early is when you start receiving a benefit before your full retirement age. Now, the full retirement age, back when they created Social Security was 65. And then they started increasing it, and they made it age 66. And now we're in the middle of increasing it again, going up to full retirement age, if you were born in 1960 or later, to being age 67.
I think when they started, you had to wait till 65. I don't think they allowed you to take it early. I could be wrong.
But through the years, they've done changes. And even when it was 65, you could take it as early as 62. Maybe not when they first started in 1930, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But during our lifetime, it was during my financial planning lifetime.
You had the opportunity.
Started in the 80s. It was always you could start as early as age 62, or you could wait till as late as age 70 to start taking your Social Security benefit. Now, taking it early meant that you would receive a lower benefit. The reason you're getting a lower benefit is because they expect to pay it to you longer. And that's really what it's all about. Mm-hmm. If you take it early, they go by the number of months prior to your full retirement age. So now full retirement age is somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on age. And so if you want to start taking it, and you're not, well, assuming you're not working, you can still take it as early as age 62. And they're going to calculate how many months prior to your full retirement age you are when you start taking that benefit. And they're going to reduce that benefit by a factor for each month that you take it early. And that's it. You will not get an increase going forward except for cost of living allowance increases. Now, I should say there is one way to potentially increase your benefit, and that's to go back to work and put in some really good earnings years, which makes your benefit higher. But most people aren't doing that.
Right.
But if you're going to retire and you start taking a Social Security benefit prior to your full retirement age, it is permanently reduced. Permanently. For the rest of your life type permanent. And the only exception is cost of living adjustments going forward. And so if you take it late if you start taking it somewhere between your full retirement age and as late as age 70, they will increase it because they figure they're not going to pay you as long. If in that
they're
case,
kind of rewarding you for waiting.
They figure they're going to pay you the same amount either way, whether they pay you, from 70 to 83 or from 62 to 83. It all comes out in the wash there we're looking at it. So from an actuarial standpoint, they're basically paying you the same thing. And so if you wait until age 68 and 6 months or age 70, whatever the case may be. Now, they don't increase it if you wait past age 70.
So they'll let you build it up, but once you're age 70, they're not saying
we're not going to let it increase forever.
The bonus for waiting ends.
So, and it's a permanent increase. They don't come back and reduce it anymore. But so no, once you start taking your benefit, barring some of these stranger outside factors, that benefit is the benefit, and with the exception of cost of living allowances, there is no increase when you hit a specific age like full retirement age.
Yeah. And so people who believe that it's an automatic escalator, you get a big bump, that's not going to happen. Here's another thing. You mentioned full retirement age. Almost 97% of millennials, 90% of Gen Xers, and about 75% of boomers incorrectly identify the age where they're eligible for full benefits. In other words, they're full retirement age.
And a full retirement age just is where the formula creates the benefit without any modifications. It's where the formula starts.
Yeah.
And then if you take it early or late, it's either reduced or increased.
It's neither reduced nor increased at your full retirement.
You said three groups of people. For 100% of the people in the Gen Xers, for 100% of the people in the, what was the second one?
Millennials,
their full retirement age is 67, unless they change the law.
Currently.
Unless they change the law.
Right.
And for most of the millennials, if you aren't already receiving Social Security, for boomers, if you aren't already receiving your benefits, most of the rest of the boomers that have not started Social Security, their full retirement age is going to be very close to, if not 67.
Yep. Mine is.
Yeah, mine is too.
That's me. So if you're born 1960 or later,
yes,
your full retirement age is 67. And then another one, fewer than 1 in 10 adults know the factors that determine the maximum benefits. I don't expect people to know that.
Well, the factors, one of the key factors is how many years of employment, how many years of income do they count? I mean, one of the big misconceptions I've heard is that they count 10 years worth of income. No, you basically have to have 10 years worth of income paying into Social Security to get a Social Security retirement benefit. But your benefit isn't based on 10 years. It's based on 35 years of earnings. And if all you have are 10, your benefit isn't going to be very good. Even if those 10 were very good years.
Well, because you're going to have 10 years of
earnings and 25 zeros in that average.
Yeah. So your Social Security benefit is based primarily on what your
lifetime earnings.
Your lifetime W-2.
35. Well, self-employment. Your lifetime, the lifetime earnings that you've paid Social Security on.
Yes. Your FICA-able wages. So if you didn't have that many, if you were fairly low wage throughout your years, the benefits...
Well, the benefits are skewed to the lower... So if you've got 35, 40, 50 years, whatever, of fairly low wages versus somebody who has 10 years of fairly high wages, that the benefit will be about the same. Even though one person only had 10 years, the other person had 35 years, because it is skewed to the lower wage average.
Yeah.
You get a larger percentage of the first X amount of your average. You get 90% of the first X amount of your average, and then as your average goes up, you get 32% of a big block, and then only 15% of the higher wage.
Well, because you're going to probably need the money more.
Well, it is designed for that, that purpose.
Yeah, which is
somebody who it makes $20,000 a year on average throughout their history, it will probably get 75% of their income replaced through Social Security. Still not a big number, and somebody who makes $150,000 a year, historically inflation adjusted, will get about 30% of their pre-retirement income replaced by Social Security.
So now that we've talked about this sort of basic background of it, the question is for everybody who wanted to listen to this episode is, when's the ideal age to take my Social Security? Now, 2 words.
It depends.
It depends, of course. Everybody's situation is different. But, Professor, how does somebody determine when to take their Social Security benefits? Because obviously Social Security and any kind of guaranteed, maybe pensions, things like that guaranteed income sort of
Well, it forms the foundation for the rest of everything. You really can't create your investment portfolio allocation until you know what your income is going to be in retirement, when you're going to start receiving your Social Security, how much of your pension you're going to get, and when. Because if you don't know how much income you're going to get from these other places, how do you know how much income, cash flow you're going to have to generate from your portfolio? So if you're going to defer taking your Social Security, that means your portfolio, and you're going to retire, that means your portfolio has to supply a bigger portion of income or cash flow to you until the Social Security kicks in. If you're going to take your Social Security early, that means your portfolio doesn't have to create as large of a cash flow in those early years. It'll have to create it later. And so how you develop your investment portfolio is very dependent upon your Social Security claiming strategy and your pension strategies.
Which means that you should kind of know at what age you want to begin taking your Social Security benefits. And that's why we're talking about this here. But since it depends for everybody, we can maybe give some
general
guidelines, not hard and fast rules.
No.
But, okay, so for your retirement, we're leaving widow benefits out of this.
We are and we're not, because that is still going to be a part of it, especially if there's an age discrepancy. Or disparity, I should say.
All right. Well,
but the idea is that you're betting hard, cold cash on an outcome, and the outcome is, how long is this benefit going to last? I mentioned earlier that they were all based on about 82-ish, give or take. Social Security expects to pay you the same amount if you start at 62 or if you start at 70 through about age 82. That's kind of where the actuarial numbers come out. There are some factors involved as far as COLAs and things like that. But if you're not working, the 82, 83 is kind of the break even. And so you're betting, how long will my benefit last? Will my benefit last until at least age 82, 83, 84, give or take? If I think I'm betting hard on that one, then defer taking it until age 70.
When you say my benefit less, what we're talking about is you living that long.
Yes.
I mean, your benefit.
I will put a caveat asterisk on that for a moment.
Put an asterisk on
how long you live.
Yes. So let's just leave that for a moment. But that's what you mean when you say
how long will that benefit last? How long will they will Social Security continue to pay this benefit out on my behalf?
Right. So currently, for retirement benefits, the earliest you can take any retirement benefits is age 62.
Right, and it's reduced. How much it's reduced depends on what your full retirement age is.
That's right.
If your full retirement age was 66, then it's going to be, you're already there this year.
That's true. So if I were going to take it as early as possible at age 62, what are some reasons to do so?
You don't have a long life expectancy. You have an overriding fear that Social Security is going to run out of money, and you want to get what you can get when you can get it. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel more comfortable, even though your portfolio is large enough to be able to withstand the larger distribution and then ultimately the smaller distribution. You just feel better about taking the Social Security early at 62. There's nothing wrong with that answer. Those are reasons to do it. The biggest reason is you don't think you're going to live to 82. I have a friend who's 59 right now, and for years he said, I'm older than any male in my family has ever made it. I am not betting on 82.
May not even be betting on 72.
He's hoping for that, but
Sure.
The males in my family just unfortunately haven't lived that long, and now he's healthy and everything's going in his favor. He goes, I will be glad to be wrong on this decision.
Well, you seem to. I see both sides argued both sides online, and the biggest one seems to be people saying never take it early. You're getting a lower payment. Always wait. For goodness sakes, they're raising your benefit. Why would you ever? But in some cases, hey, Professor, maybe you just need the money.
Needing the money is a tough one, though, if you actually expect to live a long time, because that means you're going to be shortchanging yourself later on, because you won't have the same income availability later on. Your income from your portfolio won't be as much because you've been using it, and you're going to be taking more money out of the portfolio later. It's just financially, if you live a long time, it does not make financial sense. So if that's the deciding factor, your future is not as, your present feels good, but your 80s, and if you live in your 90s, is not going to be maybe as comfortable. But by then, maybe you've gotten so used to your budget, you don't know.
Exactly. It's been 20 plus years, and I'm used to this. And plus, I'm not spending as much as I was.
Even in that case, I still think that should not be your deciding factor.
Sure, of course.
But it's an emotional call. Many decisions in financial planning are done through an emotional call rather than a financial one.
If you know somebody who says, I can't make it to 60. My job, I can't stand it anymore. I can retire if I take my Social Security now at age 62 or 63. I mean,
but I would say that if you really believe you're going to live to 83, 84, let's live on the portfolio before we take the Social Security.
Now, I mentioned retiring.
Retiring is key. If you're below full retirement age, there are earnings tests, that if you want to take your benefit as early as age 62, we just got done telling you could take it at 62, but not if you're making more than $20,000 a year, basically.
So you can't really work and earn money.
Depends on how much money if you want to go really part-time, or if you're part-time, if your job is a lower wage part, if you're making $19,000, $20,000 a year, sure, then you can get your Social Security at 62. But if you're making 40, 50, 60 or more, they'll give you your Social Security to start. And then when they match up your W-2, your tax return and things, a year later, they're going to call you, or not call you, they're going to send you a letter saying, you remember that $1,400 a month we were sending you? We're not going to send it to you anymore. We're going to hold it because you're still working. And
it's technically a retirement benefit.
And you shouldn't have been receiving it yet, so you owe us that money back.
And they'll withhold it.
And we will stop paying you. And when you do become eligible receiving it, we'll stop paying you again until we get paid back the money that you received early.
That's just the way it is.
And that continues until the year you turn full retirement age. There's still a rule in place for the months in the year before you turn full retirement age. But once you turn and reach your full retirement age, earnings are off the table. You could make $1 billion a year. First, get a job that'll pay you that, and still get your Social Security benefit, and not have them reduce it as far as the work test.
You get the full thing.
You get the full thing, and you'll pay taxes on it, but you still get it.
Somebody wants to give me $1 billion a year job, I'll be more than happy
until
to
70
pay
for
taxes.
sure.
I don't care. I'm fine with that. Okay, so these are some of the reasons for taking it early,
right,
which you don't often hear.
Now, one of the reasons to take it early, and this gets back into the caveat I was talking about, is how long you live, is not necessarily how long you live if you've got the higher benefit. It's how long, and you're married, it's how long either you or your spouse live in that case. Because if you've got the higher of the two benefits, your benefit is the one that continues for as long as either one of you are alive. And so if you've got the higher benefit, maybe you defer until age 70, but especially if you got an age disparity and there's a drop in benefits, the younger spouse was a lower wage spouse and their benefit's not going to be as large, and it'll never be as large as the benefit you're receiving. And so it's not your age 82, 83, 84 anymore. It's their age 82, 83, 84. You may be 93 by that time. You may be 10 years older than them. So you're basically at that point betting that you're going to make it into your 90s.
Let's use you as an example because we've done this before, all right? Yeah. But you and your wife.
We're only 2 years apart, but it's the same idea.
Yeah.
My Social Security benefit is significantly higher than my spouse's Social Security.
You worked and she stayed home and the kids and didn't have...
She never was at home, but
she was not out earning...
She was raising kids for a large portion of her life.
She was not out earning W-2 wages and all that stuff.
Now, she has worked, and she does work.
She has a benefit.
She's got a benefit.
But it's significantly lower than yours.
Yes. It will never, even if she waited until age 70, it won't catch up to mine. And so the idea is that she will take hers as soon as she can take it, whether she's working or at 62, whatever it gets. Because while I think I'm relatively healthy, I'm average. In a lot of ways. I'm just an average Joe.
You don't expect to live...
I don't expect 95 plus. 82, 83, it sounds reasonable for my build, my shape, my round.
Your girth?
Round is a shape. Get in shape, Rick. Round is a shape.
Now, your wife, although she's expected to live, and she's pretty healthy.
And her family has got some long livers. And so I expect her to be well in her 90s, live a long time. So the idea is I'm going to defer taking my Social Security benefit until age 70 to make it as large as possible, not just for me or for us, but for her, because assuming I can get to at least age 69 when she gets to her full retirement age, that benefit is what continues for her should I predecease her.
So she, even though could potentially live to be 95.
Right. Her benefit's going to stop when I do.
Yeah. So
my benefit doesn't stop until she does.
So it would make sense for her to take it as early as she possibly can.
It makes sense for her to take it early because it's unlikely that I will make it to the break-even age for her.
Right. So if you're both still alive at age 71, you're getting your much higher benefit. She's getting her smaller benefit. Let's say something happens and you die at 72. I'm not wishing that on you, but let's say you did.
At least not this moment.
Yeah. At age 7, at your death, in
now
this
she
example,
picks up my benefit for the rest of her life.
Her benefit goes away.
Yes.
Because there's only
you only get one benefit basically
for a survivor. You get the higher of the two. Her smallish, relatively small benefit goes away, but she continues to get yours. Your benefit lives on, and in this case, your benefit could potentially last until 95 or 100.
Yeah. So I could have been lasted until I was 100, but I wasn't. But she was alive to receive it, so that's why that's the plan in place for us. Now that plan has changed when they changed the rules, back in 2014. But
well, it did, and we won't get into all the spousal stuff. But this is where the conventional wisdom gets turned
this
on
is
its
where
head.
She should take it early.
And this only obviously applies to married couples. If you're
or single individuals who are married for more than 10 years.
Well, now you've got yeah.
I received a call on that today. Somebody who was married for 11 years, divorced, and they are now 66, and their ex-spouse unfortunately passed away, and they were 67 at the time.
Yeah.
And the question is, the person that I was talking to has not started receiving a benefit at all yet. They're still working. They weren't planning on taking a benefit yet. They were planning on letting their benefit grow till age 70. So the question is, do I take a spouse or a survivor benefit now and let my benefit continue to grow until age 70?
Well, and again, these are things that need to be factored in. We talked about when it's a good idea to take it at age, as early as possible, at age 62. Why would somebody? This might seem obvious to people, but why would somebody wait until age 70? Let's just
because
kind of
they
recap
expect that they or their spouse will live a long time. Into their
one of the two of you
right.
will live a long time.
And to the point where you would have at least been at age mid-80s. Now, the break even I said was 82, 83, 84, and I figured, well, that's a push, and if that's the case, I want it early. If I'm just going to push, I'm going to take it early. But
right.
if I'm going to live into my late 80s, and again, do I want to bet? Because I am betting hard cold cash here, because I could have been receiving a benefit early, and then it takes a number of years for the higher later benefit to offset the money I got early. And it takes till about age 82, 83, 84, depending upon what variables as far as cost of living adjustments and things of that nature.
It's like the train that leaves Chicago early.
Overtaking
the train that left L.A. or whatever,
Well, it's kind of like they're both leaving New York. One's going to go 55 miles an hour. The other one's going to go 85 miles an hour.
Yes. The slower one is going to leave first. Yeah. When does the faster one overtake?
If all you're doing is getting to Chicago, starting on the earlier one first, or the slower one, is going to do fine. But if you're going all the way to Seattle or LA,
yeah.
You're going to want the faster one. Even though you start a little later, you'll get there faster.
Yeah,
it takes a little while to overtake it, but it'll overtake it.
Well, on the benefits, this is how this works. But again, it always goes back to how long will the benefit last. Now, here's my other question as this relates to this, and I sort of alluded to it earlier. We've talked in the past about people who spend more early in their retirement, age 65 to 75. Generally, you spend...
as you get into your 80s, late 70s, 80s, and 90s, you tend to not spend quite as much money as you did when you were younger.
You're not probably not traveling as much. Your expenses... other than healthcare,
you tend not to shop as much. Your
Other
clothes are still in style from the.
But you don't care at that point.
Yeah.
You can still wear the checkered hat with earlaps. It doesn't matter. But as you get older, you tend to spend less. Does this ever factor into somebody saying, I might be messing with I might be doing the wrong thing by taking it early, but I'd really want to have the money now. To be able to enjoy some extra benefits while
I'm young
I'm
enough
able
to do it.
Correct. Does that ever factor in?
They don't put it quite as succinctly as that, understanding that it's going to somewhat maybe, they don't think that they're going to spend less money when they're 20 and 30. They just know that they want to spend more money now. And that's the way they put it. I mean, they don't put the two sides of it together.
Okay.
But yeah, people will say, I hope, like my friend, I hope this is a bad decision. I hope I live long enough to realize this.
Because you take it at age 62 thinking, I'm never going to live past age 70 or something. So I'm going to take it early. But, do you really, by the time you get out to age 84, 85, 86, and you've been
look back living on your budget for 22 years?
Do you really say, oh, man, I can't believe I should have waited. I could have had I'd have a higher income now.
Probably not. But on the other side, if you plan on deferring it, only two things are going to happen. You're going to be very happy with your decision, or you're not going to care. That's a harsh way to look at it.
Because you won't be around.
But on the other side, if you plan on deferring, and this comes to the planning side of things, if you plan on deferring, that means that your portfolio is going to be created a little bit more conservatively to give you a larger distribution in the early years. It becomes easy to change your mind. Because your portfolio is going to be on the conservative side, you can change to a more aggressive side anytime you want. You can always say, well, I'm going to wait till 70, and then about 64, 65, 66, whatever, I don't want to wait. Turn it on. That means you need less from the portfolio. That way it's really easy to restructure from conservative to aggressive. Mm-hmm. On the other side, if you plan on taking it early, it's very difficult to undo it. You can stop taking it at 66 or 67, your full retirement age, and let it grow. But that only works if the markets are in your favor at the time you want to make the change, because your portfolio is more aggressive now. If you want to make that change right after a big drop in the market, you don't want to then take your portfolio from that stature and go more conservative. And so from a planning prospect, if you're on the fence and you don't know which way to go, plan for deferring, because it's easy to change your mind. Don't go the other way.
One last scenario. I plan to work until age 70.
Okay. I
reach age 67, let's say, and I know I'm going to work till 70. Does it make sense for me to maybe take my Social Security now and build up that?
Well, you're going to pay taxes on it. If you're working, most likely 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxable, and which means that the break-even age is a little bit different. So are you going to live long enough to make taking now a lower benefit? Because it's not only going to be lower because you're taking it early, but it's going to be lower because you're going to be paying a chunk of taxes on it.
Do I increase my 401k by the same amount? I mean, I realize these are scenarios.
Those are all personal, emotional decisions, and there's not going to be a correct answer I can give just as a carte blanche against everything that goes this way. But I would say it still goes on break-even age, and who are we taking this benefit for? You obviously don't need it right now. Yeah. Are we going to do something with it that is imperative that we do right now? Maybe you got started with kids later in life, and the kids are in college right now, and they're costing you 3 arms and 2 legs, and it would be nice emotionally, physically, stress-wise to help.
If that's the case, then honestly, I don't think...
Well, that comes into play. It depends on how old the kids are, too, because if I'm receiving a benefit and I have kids under 16, they can get a benefit.
Well, now that's probably less common, but it does happen.
We'll talk to Tony Randall about that.
Yeah, there was another one, too. Who else had kids late?
At a late...
Tony was like 70 or something.
He was 70 or 72 when he had his last child.
Yeah, he did.
When he fathered his last child.
Yes, exactly, yeah. To me, I don't think necessarily you can make a wrong decision. I mean, yes, you could wait till age 70, take your benefit and die at age 72, and if you're single, you could have had that money, but you don't care at that point.
Well, there are maybe some ways to do things. You could defer it and not work and do a Roth conversions in the lower tax brackets before you get to the higher, and try to reduce your required minimum distributions, which will force, in many cases, your Social Security to be taxable. Maybe you've got some tax planning in there, too.
You're always thinking like a planner, I mean, there are ways to
always
do this.
Muddying the water is what I'm doing right now.
Well, no, you're not muddying the waters. What you're doing is presenting options that I think a good planner would present to somebody. So there are all kinds of options. Professor Plum, I think you would suggest, I certainly would suggest, podcast that if you're trying to figure out when to take your Social Security, if you're getting close to that age where you're going to be retiring, and that could be within the next 5, 6, 7 years. It doesn't have to be next year. Think about when you may want to start taking your Social Security benefits, because as Professor Plum said, that's the foundation of the rest of your plan. These guaranteed forms of income, pensions, Social Security, whatever it is. Talk to your advisor and find out. 800-644-1150 is a good place to start. That's the number at Lucia Capital Group, 800-644-1150. You can talk to Professor Plum or any of the Lucia Capital Group advisors. You've got a team, and I know I mentioned this before, but you've got a team of advisors, Professor, that you work with. You oversee all the planning processes, right?
Yes, and they are very good with Social Security. And when they run into an area that they may not be 100%, they just call me too.
Of course they do. I was trying to talk to you before the show, and here you were taking phone calls from people, just consulting and making sure that everything was right. 800-644-1150, that's the number, or you can go to luciacap.com, LUCIACAP.com. We do have every so often, we're speaking of Social Security very quickly, every couple of months we do these webinars where we talk about Social Security taxation. This was a topic that came up on one of our podcasts not too long ago. But if you want to learn more about that, Professor, we do talk about strategizing, using your IRAs and your personal money and withdrawal tactics.
And trying to do it ahead of time and get the strategy in place before you get too far into retirement where there's very little you can do about it.
That's right. That's why when you do this stuff, even if you're not taking your Social Security benefits yet, it's a really good idea to think about it and plan, because oftentimes when you get to the point where you should have done something else, it's too late to do anything about it.
You may be in a catch-22 where there's nothing you can do. No matter which way you turn, it's taxes.
Taxes. I got an uncle in taxes.
Dollars I'm talking about.
That's where he lives. Dollars, taxes. All right, good. Boy, are we on the same page. Yes, Marx Brothers. Thank you. Thank you for that. I got to give Chico Marx, I got to give him credit. I can't take credit for that one. That joke's about 90 years old, and it's still funny.
To you.
800-644-1150. Thank you, Professor Plum. I appreciate that and your help in this. We got more to talk about. We'll be back again next week. I should have said this. Don't forget to subscribe. You can subscribe to our podcast, Spotify. You can go to Spotify, subscribe, get this downloaded, and listen to all the episodes that you want. We got plenty to talk about, and we'll be back again next week. For Professor Rick Plum, Certified Financial Planner, Professional, I'm Johnny Dean. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. To the extent that this material concerns tax matters, it is not intended or written to be used and cannot be used by a taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding penalties that may be imposed by law. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. Different types of investments and/or investment strategies involve varying levels of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment or investment strategy, including the investments purchased and/or investment strategies devised by LCG, will either be suitable or profitable for a client's or prospective client's portfolio. Thus, investments may result in a loss of principal. Accordingly, no client or prospective client should assume that the presentation or any component thereof serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized advice from LCG or from any other investment professional. You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. This material was gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. The information provided is based on current laws, which are subject to change at any time. Lucia Capital Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Social Security rules can be complex. For more information about Social Security benefits, visit the SSA website at ssa.gov or call 800-772-1213 to speak with an SSA representative. Examples cited are hypothetical, are for illustrative purposes only, are not guaranteed, and subject to potential federal and state law amendments. There is no guarantee that you will achieve the results discussed or illustrated. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution or RMD in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Roth IRA distributions of principal from a Roth IRA are tax-free. However, any earnings will be taxed at ordinary income rates, and a 10% penalty tax will apply if withdrawn prior to age 59.5 or within 5 years of the date the Roth IRA was established, whichever is longer. Rick Plum is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, and member FINRA SIPC. The investment professionals are affiliated with LPL Financial and are conducting business using the name Lucia Capital Group, a separate entity from LPL Financial.